Welcome back, everybody. It's your boy, Aaron. It's your boy, Ben, here to give you the picks of the week, the picks that will win you money.
That's right.
If we ever get this posted, we don't know. This is like our third week trying to get. We post week one. We've had technical difficulties the last 2 weeks. We think we've got it ironed out, so this week we will actually be able to put something out there. We hope. But if you've been following along with our Twitter at AB Talks Sports, you've seen that we've been hitting, whether it's our NFL plays, college plays. College plays is obviously what we talk about on this show, but be on the lookout on the Twitter for those NFL plays on Sunday as well. So click those notifications. You click it for your favorite NFL reporter, college reporter, whoever. Click it for us too. We'll give you the picks. We'll give you some change. So there's obviously week 4 college football. You're starting to see some dicey stuff going on. 2 firings happening. We won't really talk about those. UCLA, why you got to do that? I mean, y'all are making us money by losing, but still, New Mexico was free. Utah week 1 was free. But UCLA fired their head coach, Virginia Tech, which, thank you, because I've lost, I bet on you guys both weeks and lost both times. Thanks for that. First week I don't bet on y'all lose and then fire your coach. So, but the big news aside from those firings was, Ben, we've talked about it all year. We talked about it in the week 1 episode but we've talked about it in every week that we've actually, done an episode. Clemson's bad. It's not.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not like they're average. I think they might be now I guess average, but when I'm going to say their record, but I think this team can go 8-4 at best.
They can easily go 8-4. Yeah. I mean, you have to be able to score to win. So it's step 1, and they're not really able to do step 1. So
yeah, it's terrible.
I think
it's absolutely awful.
It's unfortunate that our weeks 2 and 3 recordings didn't get posted because
we would have looked.
We talked about it week 1, but
we've been talking about yeah.
We've been talking about it from the beginning of the season that he is Mr. Klubnik is not a 5-star.
Not good. No, and then obviously, because now we obviously we're going to get this one out, and so it's they're just jumping on the train that we've been we have the voice recordings, at least from last week, where we talked about how bad the offense had looked, just sloppy, and then they hit the one big play this past week, but it's just outside of that big play, the offense pretty much didn't do anything. They turned the ball over, they would move the ball inside the red zone, Klubnik would either throw a pick or he would fumble the ball. It just has not looked well at all. But we don't want to spend too much time bottled down because, like I said, we don't want to talk about those. We want to talk about making you some money. So we have a bunch of big games on the docket. Big one, obviously, is the one going on in Salt Lake City this weekend. Utah against Texas Tech. The Utes at home are favored by 3. Over under, according to DraftKings, just had it. Over under is set at a whopping 57.5. Again, Utah hosting Texas Tech, who neither team, if you look at their schedules, they played P4 competition, but they haven't really played anybody from a competitive standpoint. So Ben, where's your mind at in this game? Taking the Utes, taking the Red Raiders. Where are you looking at?
Well, this thought kind of came to my head. I think we had been on the front end week 1. We knew Utah minus 5.5. Pound
right.
That, but
pound.
Bet your mortgage on that. That's easy money.
Should have alted 30.5 and still would have made money.
Seriously. So I think Vegas was very slow to react to how good Utah actually is. And so I think hopefully they're still a little bit slow. I believe in Utah. I think Utah's going to pull it out. I believe in Dampier and the transfers that they have on offense. And then I think that Texas Tech not having Utah's played a little bit stiffer competition, not much stiffer, but a little bit. And I think
right.
With Texas Tech, firsthand experience, Ole Miss had a super cupcake schedule the first 4 weeks of last year, and then played Kentucky, who was their first real challenge at all, and struggled mightily. So I think Texas Tech could run into that a little bit, where they think they're better than they are, and then they go against real competition, and it's a little bit of a shock that, oh, hey, we actually need to try a little bit, and
Right.
execute, like the execution level when you're going against non-power 4 teams versus power 4 teams. You have to execute, like, there are no mistakes are allowed, really.
Right.
Like, you have to execute 100% of the time. You have to be right, and you have to be in the right spot. So I think Utah can take advantage because they played a little bit harder of a schedule, and I think they're going to be a lot better coached. So
Yeah, I definitely think, number one, I think they'll be better coach. Number two, Texas Tech, yes, they did bring in a lot of transfers. They did bring the quarterback back in Morton. The spread being at 3, what it tells me, and we, I think, have talked about before, where Vegas will give you 2 to 3 points if you're the home team. So what they're pretty much saying is that this is a pick'em on a neutral site. This is not a pick'em. This is a Utah. We talked about earlier. I'll get to it a little bit later. This is a Utah hammer play, in my opinion. I just don't see, because number one, yes, Texas Tech, has the athletes, but they're playing. People forget Utah's in elevation. Salt Lake City, you're in elevation. Utah's going to be more accustomed to that. I think that leads to a Utah Utes somewhat of a runaway. I'm thinking by 7 to 10 points. Yeah, I just think it's very, very easy running for the Utes. Some other big ranked matchups, that might be the only one that off the top of my head. No, excuse me. We do have Auburn at Oklahoma. Sooners are favored by 6.5. They are the home team. It is the Jackson Arnold quote-unquote revenge game. He, of course, was the Oklahoma quarterback last year. Over/under set at 47.5. I'll just kick this one off. If you don't bet this over, you don't love football. I'm just going to say that. These are two offenses. You saw it with Oklahoma. Yeah, you didn't really see it Oklahoma week 1. But if you watched week 1 Auburn, that secondary is suspect. And Sawyer Robertson was dotting them up. I think John Mateer is a better passer slightly than Robertson. He's also a much, much better athlete. I think this thing sails over. It's going to be, I expect a shootout. I think it's almost going to be just like the Ole Miss-Arkansas game last week, in which the over almost cashed in the first half. I could see that happening. Maybe not in the first half. I could see this easily being that over cashing by the end of the third quarter. I think both offenses are really good. The Oklahoma defense, I think, is a lot better than Auburn, so that's why I lean Oklahoma to win the game. Spread's a little dicey to me just because, like I said, the Arnold revenge factor and Hugh Freeze. I know he hasn't done it in a little bit, but people forget Hugh Freeze in road games as an underdog, especially in the SEC, is pretty good. So I think Oklahoma wins the game. I'm not touching the spread. I am touching that over, though.
okay, that's reasonable. I think that I hesitate to do the over just because the defenses are so good, but I think I can get behind that. For me, I have a little bit different point of view. I think that obviously we've touched on it a little bit. I'm an Ole Miss fan, so I have experience as a fan with Hugh Freeze, have sort of followed his experience at Auburn and how it has not gone very well, and most of that's due to quarterback play. And he finally has a very talented quarterback. Confidence is an issue. Play calling has been an issue. Obviously, at Oklahoma, he didn't have. Basically, he was like operating with an entire second string of linemen and an 8th string and below receiving core.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of things that were going negatively at Oklahoma, and those things so far have seemed to turn around a little bit. And I think what Hugh Freeze does in big games will help them win this game. Hugh Freeze is a big game coach. He coaches to play in the big games. What you'll notice if you follow Hugh Freeze, the games against teams that he is supposed to win are always a struggle, He's lost to New Mexico 2 years when they had Pavia. He almost lost They played South Alabama last week. It was 31-15. It wasn't
Right.
it wasn't a blowout by any means. Not like South Alabama's a respectable team, but they're not supposed to be on Auburn's playing
Auburn's level, the way that should be a 2-score game. No, yeah.
But knowing Hugh Freeze, this is what he coaches for, is these big games
Right.
where it matters the most. He's going to have a lot of his best play calls dialed up. He's going to have his team fired up and ready to go. On the other side, Brent Venables does not have that clutch gene. He had the Big 12 win in year one as a head coach, fumbled it, lost to two inferior teams after beating the game that he had to win to go play in the Big 12 championship. He beat Texas, and then he lost to two teams that he should have had no business losing to. So I think Venables I trust a lot less. Freeze finally has a quarterback. Obviously, we know his receivers are very talented. Cam Coleman, I can't remember the other freshman that came in with him, but the other freshman is more reliable than Cam Coleman. Obviously, Coleman makes the big plays, but overall, they can, with the read option that they have with Jackson Arnold, I think they're super dangerous, and they utilize his legs a lot better than Oklahoma did. And although John Mateer has been electric and amazing, on the other side, I know I've talked a lot about Auburn, but I'm trying to help people understand that Auburn could be a reasonable pick here. I'm picking them to win outright. So I think Auburn's defense has been really good under Durkin, the defensive coordinator, and they've been super underrated. Auburn's always been in these games. They just throw interceptions constantly. The past couple of years,
they throw picks. They gave up, what was it against Auburn? It was 4th and goal from the 20, 25 increases. I think that was his first year against Alabama. So I think this is the game for Hugh Freeze where it's kind of put up or shut up time. You've been saying, hey, give him a couple of years. Well, he's in I guess this would be year 3 for him. Well, it's time to get that marquee win that can propel you, because you win this game if you're Auburn, you're in the college football playoff picture, because 10-2 SEC teams are going to get into the college football playoff, and I think both of these teams can be around that 10-2, 9-3 record, where 9-3 probably gets you talked about. And if you're going to be around the same record, you want to have that head-to-head to where you can kind of hang your hat hey, we beat this team. You don't want to be South Carolina last year saying, well, I know we lost Ole Miss, we lost to Alabama, but we've looked better than them the last couple of weeks. It's but you lost.
But we just beat Clemson.
Right.
We see how that's exactly this year. So
we see how that. Clemson. It was. Not aging well, but I think your kind of thoughts about Arnold, the receivers. I think that's just more and more a reason I love this over. I do, because my thing with Auburn, if their defense is a little suspect, giving up 15 points to South Alabama at home. That's why I say if Auburn's going to win this game, it's got to come. If Auburn's going to win this game, get this game close. I'm telling you, it's got to be a shootout. It's going to be a shootout.
It might be a shootout, but I think Auburn has a good defense. I think those things can be fair.
You might be right. I don't know. I'm not going to act like I've watched any Auburn. I watched their first game against Baylor, but then when you play 2 tomato cans after that, I really don't watch tomato can games unless I went to the school. Last top 25 matchup. We've had 3 each week of the season so far, and we have 3.
We really have.
Illinois.
It's crazy.
Illinois catching 4.5, visiting the Fighting Kurt Signettis of Indiana. Illinois comes in ranked 9th. Indiana ranked 19th. This is a loser goes home match, in my opinion, in the Big Ten. Illinois, if I remember correctly, they dodge I think they have to play Oregon. They have to play one of the big 3 in terms of Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State. They play one, but they dodge the other 2. I think Indiana's around the same,
I
just
want
like
to say
last year.
I want to say Illinois plays Penn State if they have the same schedule as last year. I feel like that's who
I
they played
I
last year.
think right. But yeah, they did. I know they. I remember they played in Happy Valley last year. So this is a game where it's kind of, and Indiana played Ohio State. So this is a game where it's kind of, hey, if you win this game, it's just like we talked about with the Oklahoma Auburn game, where hey, if you win this game, you're in that college football playoff picture. As far as hey, if you take care of business the rest of the way, you're probably going to be at least talked about. Now, teams might have better resumes than you because we'll see what the playoff committee does in reference to last year with putting in SMU and Indiana, who do not belong in terms of being inferior teams to their opponents. But this game, I'm taking the Illini, and I'm taking the Illini to win outright. The over-under set at 52.5. I'd probably take the under just because I think Illinois likes to score, but Altmaier, veteran quarterback, he'll take the plays when they're needed, but he won't take the deep chances. He's smart, very cerebral player. I think he's a third-year starter. Ole Miss transfer. I think
From start
Illini
for
win this game.
Ole Miss transfer.
Yeah, I covered him in when he was in high school. Kids got wheels, but I think we talked about a little bit with the Utah Texas Tech game where Utah's played, at least not maybe somewhat inferior opponents, but they've played at least better competition than Texas Tech, so they're more battle tested. Illinois did go on the road, I believe it was on the road, or they played Duke and they blew them out. And Duke is a decent, not competing for the ACC title, but a decent ACC team, middle of the pack. Indiana's played nobody. And Kurt Signetti has preached, hey, we're not playing anybody because SEC doesn't want to play 8 games. Well, brother, our 8 games are better than your 9 games. Just saying. But I think the Illini are more battle-tested. They each have a veteran quarterback, but Fernando Mendoza has not been in this type of game in terms of top 20 matchup. Altmaier has. Now, Altmaier hasn't won it, but Altmaier has. So with that being said, I think the Illini win this game outright, and I'm banking that on the experienced head coach in Bielema, the experienced quarterback in these type of games in Altmaier. And again, it's put up or shut up time if you're Bielema and Altmaier. Like if you want to compete for that college football playoff, you got to win this game. So I'm taking the Illini to win.
Yeah, I wrestle with this game because neither of these teams are that impressive, so it's like the battle of average. But I think
Right, yeah.
for a top 20 matchup, it's kind of crazy that these are the teams that are
It's
top
the battle.
20.
It's the battle of average, and one of these teams might host a playoff game. That's the world we live in nowadays.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think Luke Altmaier can get the job done. I think Illinois can win. I think your arguments are all valid there. I think that Indiana will struggle to match up with Illinois' physicality a little bit. I was shocked how Illinois just took over that game. They found that next year against Duke. I mean, Duke kind of gave them a lot of opportunities to take advantage of, but
a lot of turnovers. Yeah.
That's what good teams do, is they take advantage. So, I mean, you kind of have to consider them a good team at this point, although they're not really great. They're not really a playoff team. They're not really a playoff team in my eyes, but if they win enough games, I guess you'll reward them with the playoff. So I'll go Illinois, but I'm not super strong. Don't have a strong feeling about either team being that great.
No, yeah, I completely agree. I think it's more of I'm banking on the veteran quarterback in these types of games, but as I said, like Altmaier, he's been in these games, he just hasn't won them.
Right.
In terms of playing on the road against a or against a ranked team. Of course, like I said, we said lost the Penn State game last year, and so yeah, I'm banking on the veteran quarterback in the games like this. I know Mendoza started games, but he hasn't started a top 20 matchup. So this obviously would take us to the games where we add, because we like to pick from 5 games that we add. And Ben, I'm going to let you go first this week because I want to see where your head's at for this added game for yourself.
I think the game of the week, or the game edition of the week, will be Missouri, South Carolina.
Really? Okay. Not where I thought you were going to go, but okay. Talk to me.
See, I just think that it'll be a really fun game to watch South Carolina get destroyed again
We hope.
by
We hope.
yeah, the former SEC East. They're just eating each other up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Missouri's a super talented team, offensively and defensively. Ahmad Hardy's a freaking stud. Bo Prabiola is going crazy. Lenore Sellers is potentially hurt. Even with him, their offense has been struggling a lot. Like they did not show too much against.
They didn't look well. They didn't look well in that first half. Like I know, not to cut you off, but like they didn't look well in that first half against Vandy. Like I know he got hurt in the first. Like he got hurt near the tail end of the first half, but still when he went out, it was 21-7, and so it just kind of like once he went out, it snowballed. But yeah, like you said, even with him, like they haven't looked great. They didn't look great against Virginia Tech, who we mentioned at the start of the show, fired their head coach, and they didn't look great in that first half. But I didn't mean to cut you off. You can continue.
No, you're good. Yeah, Vanderbilt destroyed them, and I think Missouri's going to destroy them again and basically end their playoff hopes, which is kind of hilarious that it's going to be ended after 3 games.
So
but,
early.
I mean, that's just the reality. I mean, if Vanderbilt and Missouri are beating you, then look at the rest of your schedule. Sorry, buddy. It's not looking pretty.
Like you gotta go to Oxford. You got to host Bama, who looks like they might be revitalized. Yeah, I just think it's not looking well for the Gamecocks. Added game.
I'll just add real quick. I mean, just thinking about that though, like South Carolina potentially could be done with their playoff hopes after this week. I mean,
oh yeah,
there are going to be more teams with 3 or more losses this year than were even close to last year. Like it's so much more competitively balanced. It's insane. It's getting closer and closer to the NFL where any team could beat anyone any given week. It's not quite there, obviously, because there's the Power 4 and then there's the rest of the field. But within Power 4, it's getting a lot closer. There's still those blue bloods where it's going to be hard. It's harder for them to lose than it is for them to win. There are still some teams like that, but for the most part, the elite have become very good teams, and then the average have become. It's just gotten a lot close. Everyone's gotten a lot closer together.
It's more condensed. Like you saw, like Tennessee. I know they've had good seasons, especially under Heupel. But like you saw in that game, and this is no offense to Tennessee, but just where Kirby Smart has taken Georgia to where Tennessee has just been since Kirby Smart took over at Georgia, in terms of they're getting all like the recruits from Tennessee. They're like Tennessee's in the Final 3 with Georgia and Alabama. The kid's going to Georgia, Alabama. He's not been going to Tennessee until recently with the NIL, with the transport stuff like that. Guys are going to schools like that. They're going to Tennessee. They're going to Missouri. They're going to the middle of the pack SEC teams because they're like, well, why should I go sit on the bench for 2 years at Alabama or Georgia when I could go play right away at a Tennessee, or I could play earlier at least, or have a chance to play earlier at a Tennessee and Missouri. So it has, like you said, it has condensed it to where those teams are still at the top, but the teams that are in the middle of the pack, or even at the bottom of your conference, like it's creeping very, very tight. My added game is the game that I was actually looking up to see where game day was this week because I thought it was going to be at Texas Tech. Thought it might have been at Indiana. Thought it could be at the Oklahoma game. It's at Miami against Florida. A 1-2 Florida team against a 3-0 Miami team is according to ESPN, the best game of the week. And we talked about it again on last week's show. And we both fell for it. We both fell for the rat line of Florida. We fell for Florida has a chance to, right the ship, maybe save Napier's job.
Well, to be fair, they were up 10-0, like through 5 interceptions. They should have won that game if you really think about it.
Oh, I wish I was in Tennessee because I had a parlay with Tennessee covering and Florida covering, and I wanted to cash it out at halftime,
minute?
or not even halftime. When it was 10-0, I was like, I need to cash. I was like, and I would go to cash out, but I was in Mississippi, and it was like, no, you're not in the right state. I was like, whatever. But and then they still almost ended up covering, and I know, and that was at LSU, rivalry game. I get that. During that game, because there was a weather delay, Miami was beating the brakes off of South Florida. Like, it was bad. It was bad. And you're telling me that Miami off, and I get, emotional, whatever, this in-state rivalry, whatever, this is going to be a bloodbath. 7.5. You tell me I can get Miami for 7.5. I say, thank you, sir. Thank you, Vegas. Here's my money. Send it back to me after the game. I think it's going to be an absolute bloodbath. Miami, I think, has a team. Carson Beck, we talked about it, has receivers again that can catch the ball. He's looked really, really good his first 3 weeks. I know he's going up against it, and and you look at, and I know Notre Dame's defense doesn't look that much better than they did week 1 in terms of their second game when they gave up 41 to A&M. So maybe Notre Dame's defense isn't that as good as we thought they were going to be. I think both teams, both A&M, I think A&M and Miami just have really good offenses, and I think you're going to see it on display. And you're going to start seeing why Nussmeier and LSU, we won't talk about this week, but it will be talked about. Hey, Miami's I think can put 30 on Florida, and you only put 20 on them barely. Like, you struck. I think one of it was a pick six.
Yeah.
So yeah, give me Miami in the 7.5. I think it's gonna be an absolute bloodbath.
The only hesitation I have with that, I totally agree. Like, Florida's defense is really freaking good.
Florida's defense is good, and I would give them that. But my thing, if Miami just has to confuse Lagway a little bit, and he'll throw them the ball. Like, he threw passes that I would know not to make, and I am a 5'9", unathletic, 245-pound. I have 2 left feet. I waddle. I knew not to make those passes. And this guy's supposed to be a 5-star recruit, and he throws off his back foot, not once, but it may have been 3 times. I know it was at least twice where he threw off his back foot into triple coverage across the field, and it was just, oh, thank you, to a wide open LSU defender. I do say Florida's defense is good. They will keep them in the game just like the LSU game did, but that spread was also 7.5, and they still lost by 10. I think Miami has a somewhat better offense than LSU because they do have a running game. LSU's running game has looked suspect.
Miami's offense is substantially better than LSU's.
Exactly. So that's why I like the 7.5 play, just because where their defense might not be comparative to LSU, the LSU was down their top linebacker pretty much the entire game. I just think Lagway, I don't see it. I don't see a way Florida covers to 7.5.
Yeah, I think Miami wins. I probably would not bet the 7.5 personally, just because the hesitancy that I have. I really did think that Florida was going to beat LSU, and if Lagway doesn't throw he's not going to throw 5 interceptions against Miami. He's just not, right? So I think
you would think. I hope he doesn't.
You think that has to come back to earth? He maybe throws 1, 2, maybe.
Right.
Austin Simmons threw 2 in 2 games in a row. 2, I could see. 5, there's no way he survives 10 interceptions in 2 games. He's getting pulled out, which would be a shame because he's what we saw last year. He was a super talented quarterback. The athletic traits he has are elite. They're 5-star traits, but obviously that has to translate on the field, and decision making can't be as big of an issue. I think that I'll take those 7.5 points for Florida because I think their defense is good enough, and if Lagway can limit the turnovers and they can fund their running game we'll see.
Right.
I don't know. I think Miami's defense is really good too as well. So it'll be or they're at least pretty good. So it'll be a juggernaut match back and forth potentially. I think Florida can lose by 7. But yeah, I think Miami wins, and I don't know. I wouldn't bet the spread. But
the other thing I think with this though is that if Miami kills them, Napier might be fired. Like he might not. Like he might be told in the locker room, "Hey, you're gone."
Yeah.
Like that is the other thing. Like
yeah,
he's going to get fired at some point this season. I think they're just waiting for either the bottom to completely fall out or they're waiting for them to get blown out. And it's I know you almost was playing at the same time, so I don't know how much you watched of the Miami Florida game, but we had a quad box. We had the sound on the Miami Florida game, and I forgot the sideline reporter. It was either
Florida LSU.
For Florida LSU, I forgot who it was. I think it was Molly McGrath, and she talked about how Napier's still calling the plays, and she said like, hey, like with everything coming up, like, are you going to still call the plays? And he said, yeah. Like he's like, I'll take recommendations from the OC, but I'm still the play caller. And I think you keep seeing Lagway's, nosedive as far as his play last year compared to his early play this season. You got at some point, even if it's just like buy you a couple more games, you got at some point say, hey, okay, I'll relinquish play calling duties. And that's just the way I feel, because like you said, Lagway's super talented, like especially from where we saw him last year. It's almost Jared Goff-esque, where Jared Goff, like his rookie year in the Rams, he like didn't have the best offensive coordinator, obviously didn't have an offensive minded head coach, but then he got with a offensive minded head coach who like was revolutionary in Sean McVay and completely turned his career around. And obviously you see what he's doing now with the Lions. But yeah, that's my play.
I'll say
Florida or Miami 7.5.
I'll say I saw something, and it was saying that Lagway was like the number 1 dual threat quarterback in high school, and he, to this point, maybe I think this stat should still be true. I just saw it. He still has like 0 rushing yards. They need to run him. I understand you don't want to get him injured, but let him run a read option. Let him get some carries. Like he's sturdier than Jackson Dart was. That man has running back legs. That man is a freight train. Just let him do some damage on the run, and then maybe the passing game will follow. Similar to Jackson Arnold. Jackson Arnold had that huge explosive running performance against Baylor week 1, and the passing is coming along. And I think Lagway could potentially use that as an example to follow.
Yeah, that's a great point, because if the defense doesn't think you're going to run much, like even scramble, like if they don't think you're going to do it, they're just going to drop 7, drop 8, send 3 or 4, and just say, okay, we'll just like, and then that's why like he doesn't have the 30 lanes and he's throwing 5 picks. But yeah. So yeah, that's our 5 plays, and we are doing something different this week. We're doing a best bet, but Ben, you do have some upsets you wanted to talk about. You already talked about the Oklahoma Auburn game. You're taking Auburn outright. There are +1, or is it a 190 or 290? What you got it at? So again, guys, we're recording this on
Tuesday night.
I was off Monday. We're recording this on Tuesday night, so the odds might change as far as spreads, anything like that we do talk about whenever you're listening to this. We're hoping to get this up by Friday at the latest. But you got Auburn at +195, and you took another upset. Talk about this one.
Yep. The other upset that I think this team will win outright over their opponent would be Memphis over Arkansas. And, I did some digging, and Memphis has a very stout run defense. Something that Ole Miss does not have, something we found out. So Memphis is really good against the run. I think they're going to force Taylon Green to hand the ball off, number one, in read option, and then at number two, they're going to force Taylor Green to throw. He looked really good against Ole Miss. He has some good receivers, some good transfers that came in. So it'll be an interesting battle between the Memphis DBs and the Arkansas receivers. I think that Memphis has enough defensively to limit Taylor Green more than Ole Miss did. And then I think Arkansas's defense, we saw how bad they were. Ole Miss made them look very, very bad. Obviously, Ole Miss was their first real competition of the year, so that is an advantage Ole Miss had. But Memphis obviously has been historically a good scoring offense, and I think that translates, especially against Arkansas's defense that was constantly misaligned and not in the right spot. So I think Memphis is going to pull it out. They're also, I guess, Arkansas's favored by like 7.5 right now as we are recording.
Yeah, there's 7. Yeah, as we record, there are 7.5 point favorites. That money line then got it at plus 235. So this is a game where
this is another one where Sam Pittman could get fired after the game.
Exactly.
If he loses.
He could get fired after the game. I don't know if he'll get fired after this game I definitely think I've heard it on some like national pundits as far as like Barstool, Josh Pate. Well, I haven't listened that much to Josh Pate if he's talked about it, but I know for Barstool at least, they've talked. Brandon Walker has said if they lose this week, and I think next week they play. I want to say LSU. It's a SEC team. Remembering off the top of my head. I don't want to mess up my recording thing to look it up. But if they lose this game, they're staring at a 2-3 start after starting 2-0, and with one of those losses coming to a G5 school, no matter if it's on the road at home, you're supposed to win those games when you are that Power 4 team, and you're favored by 7.5. So yeah, I definitely think that this is a game where, like we just mentioned with Napier at Florida with Miami game, if they lose this game, the head coach, the hot seat is seething at that point, and he could be on his way out. I love the over in this game just because, and you touched on it, the matchup that because Memphis offense has, I watched a little bit of their Troy game. They haven't had like that big explosive game that you would expect, but they have played 3 tomato cans. Like they played UT Chat week 1, they played Troy last week. Can't remember off the top of my head who they played week 2. I think it was Georgia State, but they did put up some points on Georgia State. So I love the over. I got it 62.5. It opened at 60.5, and then it quickly jumped Sunday night to 62.5. It stayed there at least the last couple of days. I just think this game has the chance to be kind of like the Ole Miss Arkansas game last week, where neither defense can really get a stop. Just I think the athletes that Taylor Green does have, including Taylor Green himself on the Arkansas offense, I just think leads to a explosion of Arkansas offense, and I think Memphis completely opens it up to stay in the game. Brandon Lewis has looked, or it might be Brandon Lewis. I think it's Brandon Lewis has looked really good as the first year starter at Memphis. And he's a veteran guy. I just love the over in this game. I think it's going to be a fun game in the Bluff City. And that will translate us to, so Ben, with 2 SEC teams, of course, one's an SEC on SEC matchup, but 2 SEC teams, Ben has one winning on the road and one losing on the road for his upsets of the week. I don't have an upset of the week, I guess, unless you want to take the Illinois plus 4.5 as an upset, but we like to have, plus 6.5 be our kind of cutoff there. But that takes us to lock of the week. My lock of the week, and I'll just start this off. Oregon is playing Oregon State. That over-under is at 55.5. Now, I know Oregon not looked the best in the high school stadium that they played Northwestern in. But the last time we saw them at home, because I want to say this is a home game for the Ducks, last time we saw them at home, they put up 69 points on Oklahoma State in the corpse of Mike Gundy's coaching tenure there. And Oregon State has not looked good all year long. All year long. Now, granted, this is their Super Bowl. This is against Big Brother, so to speak. I don't know what, I think they just call it the rivalry game now because they did call it the Civil War back before it had to be changed because, the world we live in nowadays. Anyway, not to get too political. I love the over. I think, and obviously with it 55.5, you're banking on Oregon putting up at least 42, and it's like Malik Murphy, just give me 2 touchdowns, bud. Just give me 2 touchdowns. That's all I need, and I think this over easily cashes at 55.5. That is my lock of the week. Oregon at Oregon State, Oregon State at Oregon, 55.5. Book it.
Nice. My lock of the week is Missouri over South Carolina. We kind of already touched on it, but I think it's going to be a bloodbath, and excited to see it.
Yeah, South Carolina, especially if Sellers, I think even if Sellers does play, if he's limited, and I want to say it was a concussion, but I don't want to speculate. I know it was a targeting penalty that occurred on the play, so that makes me lean towards it was a concussion. So if he doesn't play, he looked okay, but he doesn't bring the same athletic prowess that Sellers does. And Sellers, if he is coming off a concussion, might be a little gun shy as far as running the ball and things like that. So I really like that play. So you're taking that the money line with the spread at what it is at 10.5. I think it's at 10.5 now.
10.5, I would lock that in.
10.5.
I mean, money line without a doubt. I would lock in 10.5. I'm also locking in though.
Yeah,
with like 5% doubt.
Yeah, I think it's just like you said. I mean, you touched on it. I think it's just like you kind of said, though, with the way that South Carolina looked, even before Sellers went out, the way their offense looked all season, I just don't think, and the way Missouri has just piled on points, Kevin Coleman, the Mississippi State transfer, their other receivers really good. Purvula, I just think the firepower of Missouri will be exuded on Saturday night. So I really do like that play as well. So that takes us to our continue, and I'll pull up our parlays.
The firepower of Missouri, and then the stark contrast of the lack of firepower from South Carolina will be on display. It's going to be a crazy fun.
Even with Sellers, and they just haven't looked like they haven't been like they keep taking the deep shots and it's not there. Like they're mostly supposed to play was a punt return against Virginia Tech in week 1. And again, outside of that, it's like where are we? Like we were expecting South Carolina to compete for playoff spots, Sellers compete for the Heisman, and it just has not translated to what we've seen on the field at least through 3 weeks of the season. So that takes us to our parlay of the week. I will lock in mine. It's 5 picks. My picks are, we kind of covered them all. Utah minus 3.5 against Texas Tech. I think the Utes easily cover that and easily win. Miami minus 7.5. The over in the Oregon State game. USC minus 17.5. It's kind of like what I talked about last week. And it did cover. I took it in a parlay. So the parlay didn't cover against Kentucky. You actually decided to have an offense. But I took Purdue plus 20.5 against USC, and I know that game was lightly delayed. It started a lot later, so people might have been tuned out by it, and it wasn't really in contention, but Purdue ended up covering that 20.5, and this is the team of Michigan State. We talked about it in last week's show but before last week, I guess we'll read the stat again. Big Ten teams over the last year and a half, with teams traveling because of the expanded Big Ten, teams traveling at least 2 time zones over were 8-20 entering last week against the spread, and at least with the USC Purdue game, that's at least 8-21. Don't know what it might be now, but Michigan State having traveled all the way from Michigan to LA. Give me the USC Trojans. UCLA is terrible. USC Trojans minus 17.5, and then of course we touched on the over in Arkansas, Memphis.
Nice. I don't have mine handy, so if you could read mine as well,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
I'll read. So Ben's is, last week was it $1 for 21,000 or $2?
One for 12. 1 for 12.
1 for 12. Yeah, that's what it was. That was another thing. I think it was 21. So this is 5 to win 2,100. So not a big payoff, but this game does start Friday night, as did last week's. So hopefully we can get this up by Friday night, and you're able to put the whole thing in. It's Iowa minus 2.5 as they visit Rutgers. The over in Memphis, Arkansas. Yes, I just don't know about Iowa's offense. Like, their defense is really good. Rutgers seems to have an offense this year, but Iowa's offense is terrible.
But it's Rutgers.
I'm not saying it is Rutgers. It is Rutgers.
2.5.
But,
they only have to win by 3.
Right. Well, we talked about it last week, and I know I keep mentioning last week, and last week's wasn't posted, but we've talked about last week how, you were like Minnesota scored 60 whatever against, who was it? Against like Northwestern State, and then last week they played Cal, and I was on Cal money line, and you're like, no way. But he's got Iowa minus 2.5. I think Iowa wins. Like, I was just playing with. I think Iowa wins. He has the over in the Arkansas-Memphis game. He has Utah minus 3.5 against Texas Tech. So he does have that hook that I don't, but I won't worry about that. I think Utah easily covers that. He has Kansas minus 11.5 as they host West Virginia. West Virginia, of course, coming off the backyard brawl win. I think I like that play. West Virginia is going to be 2 up, too emotional after that win, field storm and all that. He has Miami minus 7.5, Illinois plus 4.5, Notre Dame money line, Ole Miss money line, Georgia Tech money line. Notre Dame host Purdue, Ole Miss host Tulane, and Georgia Tech host Temple. I don't see any reason those 3 can't hit. And then he has Troy plus 6.5, Missouri. He got, of course, at minus 13.5. That has moved down to minus 11.5. But no matter if Sellers plays, doesn't play, that's going to hit. And then he decided to go against me. He has Northern Illinois plus 22.5, but that line is down to 21. So I will keep getting more nervous until we get to kickoff. But he has Northern Illinois plus 22.5 against the Fighting Bulldogs of Mississippi State. And me and you kind of touched on this. This is the only time I'll talk about Mississippi State this episode before we play Tennessee next week. If Jeff Levy, I'm talking to you. Now, you're not going to listen to me, but I'm talking to you. If we lose this game, I personally will run you out of town. And I'm not even in Starkville now. But we talked about it last week with Cristobal having an easy coaching job as far as telling the guys going to play South Florida, hey, this team just won the swamp and they beat Boise State. We lost to a MAC team last year, Mississippi State, 41-17, and it wasn't even that close. It could have been 60-something to 17. They called off the Dogs. It was a bloodbath of epic proportion. And Northern Illinois also beat Notre Dame last year at Notre Dame. So, Jeff, show them the Toledo tape from last year. Show them the Northern Illinois Notre Dame game last year. I'm not saying we're going to cover. I'm not going against you there. I think it's a good play considering what happened last year. Also considering we had the Arizona State Miracle. We played Alcorn State last week. It's an easy look-ahead spot because if you win this, because it's like, oh, we could be ranked or playing for a ranked opportunity to be ranked, playing Tennessee in a couple of weeks. Classic look-ahead spot. We got to take care of business. Not saying I don't like the 22.5. I'll end up taking them in something which will be posted on the Twitter at AB Talks Sports. Follow it, guys, for all our plays. But I'll probably end up altering down to like 13.5, something like that. As if the line keeps moving down, I'll keep moving my alt line down. But I just don't. Northern Illinois, I think, has a good roster. And this is Arizona State was obviously a big test. This is somewhat of a bigger test in the terms of you have the Tennessee game next week, and you're 3-0 for the first time since 2018. Like, you got to make sure keeping the nose to the grindstone. But that is Ben's parlay. Again, that was $5 to pay out $2,100. My parlay, not to mess up the voice recording, sorry. My parlay was 10 to pay out 237. So mine's at plus mine's a plus 22,770 parlay. Ben's is a plus 42,658 parlay. So if you're above means like me and Ben, and you want to put $100 on it, that's $42,000 that you're playing for right there, bud. So good luck to you. Good luck to everyone on your bets this weekend. Again, be on the lookout. All these will be posted.
Can you loan me $100?
No. All these plays will be posted Friday during the day because, like I said, Ben's parlay does include a Friday game. So be on the lookout for those picks. Be on the lookout for the episode. Hopefully it drops. We might be dropping on a podcast form as well. If that's the case, we'll obviously shoot that on the Twitter again at AB Talk Sports. Give us a follow. Give us a retweet. Good luck, everybody.